Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of FFC&ME on the Fulham channel. I'm your host Ash Wolford. Joining me this week is Fulham fan Matty P. How you doing, Matt?
Well, mate, I'm good, mate. How you doing?
It's good to have you on, mate. Welcome to FFC&ME. We are here basically just to discuss your life as a Fulham fan and sort of get to the centre of what Fulham means to you. So, without further ado, we'll sort of start with that. Matt, how did you become a Fulham fan? What was your reason to start being a Fulham fan?
I wasn't born into a Fulham family, so my dad is an Italian immigrant that come over to England, and he didn't have a team. And then being brought up in North West London, he had like a choice of obviously like the North London clubs, West London clubs, and then he just decided to adopt, being the cheap ass Italian that he is, the cheapest season ticket at the time, which was Fulham. Certainly not anymore. And so yeah, he went for the cheapest and most available ticket in the Premier League, and it was Fulham at the time. So that's how it came about, really.
Yeah. When you first started going?
I'm still like, I'd say compared to like you and other fans, I guess I'm like a relatively like young fan compared to like all the other ones that are from like, you know, from ages ago. So I've only been supporting the club since like 2007, something like that. 2007. So when I was like 12, 13. So yeah, relatively young fan, I'd say.
So for you, obviously, I take it you would have had interest in football before you decided to like adopt Fulham as your team. So then naturally, your love for the game would have been there before your love for the football club.
If I'm being honest, I wasn't actually that mad about football growing up until like I was about probably 11, 12. And that's when I started like really building a bit of an interest in it, when my dad started taking me to the games. Yeah, I wasn't like that mad about it growing up, if I'm being honest. And then yeah, once I started going, I was like, boom, that's it. I was hooked. But yeah, I haven't really got the romantic story that other people.
You know, no, that's why there is a story there though still, because obviously naturally, you know, you've been taking the games and you've fallen in love with it while you're there. If anything, you know, there's no difference between your story being 12, 13 to like my story being like 7 or 8. It's the same thing, right? You're absolutely falling in love with the place and the team. Like, do you remember when you first went, what it was for you that you just really took to, like, as I love this is great?
Maybe the fact that like I'd been to games before Fulham, yeah. So I've been to like the old Wembley Stadium when I was like really young, and I was not into it at all. Actually, my first ever game was actually an FA Cup final with Chelsea in it, which is probably what put me on football at that age. But yeah, no, I didn't really like feel like part. I guess maybe didn't feel part of the atmosphere because it was such a big stadium. I've been to like stadiums like in Italy at Genoa Stadium, where my family are from. I've been to that stadium. I didn't really, because it's so far from the pitch and stadiums there are a lot like bigger. I didn't really feel like, maybe it's the fact that I didn't feel part of the atmosphere really. Whereas obviously at the Cottage, it's close knit, isn't it? It's personal. So maybe that's what got me hooked into it. If I'm being honest, probably that.
Yeah, well, no, it's a fair shout. I think one of the things that I find quite interesting doing this show is that I often find people's love for the football club and the love for Craven Cottage are sort of really intertwined, and they sort of tend to, you know, the story of one starts because of the other, especially from people that come to the club late, or you know, there'll be people that have moved into the country, or and you know they're adopting an English side, and you know they choose Fulham for usually the same reason why dad chose Fulham, because it was cheaper to get tickets to, and it just starts a love affair with the club because of that. You know, it's always been an interesting one for that. So for me, you 2007, you say you started. So obviously you would have seen a lot of highs and lows being a Fulham fan. You know, you would have been there for the relegations and the promotions back up and stuff again. You know, is there a particular time for you that you sort of remember when you were just like, this is me for life? I'm properly hooked here. Like I'm not changing teams. I'm not changing anything. Like I can do the thin, I can do the thick. You know what I mean? Like the heartbreak sort of almost sort of equalizes and tells you that the good times are worth it. Was there a time for you that really cemented that for you?
I'd say Roy's era. Yeah, like after like during that era, I was like, yeah, I ain't looking at another team. But yeah, I think even when I started going, like
Obviously, being Italian stuff. Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, if you're talking about Roy's team, like being Italian, obviously there would have been obviously the nights. Were you at the game against Juventus?
yeah. No,
And
I
stuff like
wasn't at
that
the
as
Juventus
well.
game. I wasn't there because that was when I was still in school days. My dad wouldn't take me to the game in school days. Apart from, we went to a Roma game. We went to the Wolfsburg game. Did we go to Basel as well? I think we went to like 3 or 4 home games. But yeah, the only Italian one that we did was Roma. That was the only Italian one we did. We didn't do the Juventus one, unfortunately, which I'm gutted about.
Yeah, no, cause, the reason why I asked obviously because naturally, if you've got a natural love for Italian football, which as you say, you probably do, being of Italian descent, that that's the big one, isn't it? Juventus for most people, especially for us over here in the UK. Like Juventus was a massive game for me personally, because they are technically like, as you said, like my Italian team, because I grew up watching them quite a lot when they used to be on TV on a Sunday. So it was a big one for me. You talk about your time and sort of the Royce era. What exactly was it about Royce era? Because I'm guessing it's going to be more than just a European run. It's going to be, the times before. It was what for you was that so special about that sort of time with Roy Hodgson?
If I'm being honest, like I don't want to sound bad for saying it, that what probably like made me really fall in love with it is that like during Roy's time at the cottage, we had a lot of good times at the cottage with him. So maybe like the fact that it was always like a good feel with him around, a lot of really good results is probably what like kind of made you sort of attach that love like to it. Like again, I don't want to sound like a glory hunter. I mean, I can't be a glory hunter because I'm a Fulham fan, but like probably the fact that it was such a good spell with him is what like made like kind of attach the feelings really potentially.
No, I think I agree. I think there was an awful lot of that time during the Europa League run. And I remember when we got through the qualifying stages and we managed to get into the group stages. There was a moment of like chatting with my cousin, who I obviously attend football games with, where it's like this could be the best it ever gets. Like this, like getting into a Europa League group stage with Fulham could be the
Yeah,
best it ever
that could be
gets.
the peak in it really. I
And
know what you're
it's
saying.
and it just kept getting better and better and better. And it just there was nothing's going to compare to that season, I don't think, unless something magical happens and we manage to like get into a Champions League or something like that. I don't think anything's going to beat the feeling of that stuff. Just by I mean, like the overall positivity that was just around the place. That everyone was positive, everything and everyone was positive, which just makes it such a shame. Sort of the couple of seasons that happened, like a few seasons later when we were trying to, the club desperately tried to relocate that. For you, Matt, obviously, I know that for you personally, you're quite big on TikTok. You do an awful lot of like your TikTok stuff where you talk quite openly, not just about Fulham, about football in general. You love having those conversations with people. When you talk to people about supporting Fulham, what do you think is like the most common question you get asked as a Fulham fan?
Why? Why? And the ones that ask them questions are always like the little plastic. I was about to swear, so I'm not going to swear. But it's always the little plastic supporters that say they support Man United, say they support Liverpool, but I've been there more times than they have, and I've probably got more relations there than they have. Do you know what I mean? And like, so they're the ones that ask me like, why? Like, remember recently I went to a barbecue in the summer. These Arsenal fans, yeah, and they're saying, well, but why Fulham? And I was like, well, but why Arsenal? And then they said, oh, well, local teams. Like, well, how many times have you been? And then we figured out that I'd been to Emirates more times than I have. So why is the question I get asked the most? But I feel like I've got the bragging rights because I actually go to the games and they don't.
Yeah, I think it's a fair one. Like, this is what this show's about. We try to get to the basis of why, and it's not necessarily why you're a Fulham fan, but it's like why any of us are. Why do we all love this club so much? Because it's torment. Like we know that you don't support Fulham because you want glory. You don't. Some people. My personal feeling is I support Fulham because uh, I've seen the Fulham come up in the fourth division of the Premier League, and I'm still young, right? But I do remember playing against like Darlington and stuff like that. And when you remember that,
I would have
it's
loved to have been
sort of
part of
it's
that. I would have loved to have been a part of that.
like I remember literally going to games where there was 4,000 people at the cottage. So when you see things now where we go to game, people moan about the fact there's like 20,000 people at games, there's empty seats. It's like you have no idea what it's like, like the stuff that we've been through as a football football club.
Yeah.
It is mental, but it is. But time moves on, and we obviously do, and the club's grown, and it's completely different to what it was during like the early 90s and stuff like that, which is a great thing. Whether or not it's great for now, because we know there's a lot of negatives around being a Fulham fan at the moment. There's a lot of negatives around the club. I feel this season, like this episode's due to come out sort of second week into the season, so let's sort of crack into what you feel like is going to come up for this season. How are you feeling about the pre-season that we've had, considering the transfer window has not been great? Obviously, we're recording this before the transfer window shuts. What are your general what's your feeling about what the season could bring for us?
I don't want to be pessimistic because I don't want to get a bunch of people like getting upset with me. But like, obviously, it's not been a great window. I don't think we've strengthened in the areas we like should be strengthening. Like, look, it is what it is. I think we're just going to have another like kind of bang average season. I think like we'll probably the best case scenario as it stands now with like just the reserve keeper signed. As it stands now, I think the best case scenario is like equal what we did last season, like 11th, and like worst case scenario maybe like just a little bit above relegation. I don't think we're going to do anything special as it stands at the minute. But look, like, I don't care because I'm not a fan just for success. Like I'm a fan because I love it. I love being a part of it. I love being a part of something. I love going to the games, and I'll keep doing it till the day I die. So yeah, that's how I feel about the season coming up, really.
Yeah, that's I think that's a fair shout. I think that I as someone who covers the club, I try to be as positive as I can be, and sometimes it's just impossible to be. And I think it's a fair shout that my general feeling for this season is if you look at our starting 11, the 11 players we know are going to be starting most games, I'm actually relatively quite happy with it. It's the players around it that is the issue. The cover players that the players that will finish games, the players that will be like. That's where I am slightly concerned. But we have a great manager, Marco Silva. I think Marco Silva is probably up there with Roy Hodgson as like the best managers the club's had. Maybe he could have done slightly better if he got backed slightly more in certain situations, but it is what it is. I think that we as a fan base, we don't expect. I think one of the things that we often say is that we never really expect anything. You're not expecting anything as a fan. You believe that something can happen, but nothing. You're not expecting anything, and I think because of that, that's what sometimes people who don't support the club, they don't understand that mentality of like, I don't expect to win certain games. I don't expect to do certain things. I'm just happy to live in the moment and go with the highs. Moments like beating Liverpool at home in the league, like you're not expecting that happening when they're going to win the league. But how great was that day? How great was that excitement of sort of sharing that with people?
I think the reason that is frustrating, this window, is because we were so close to that, like even flirting with Champions League at one point, because we were so close to it. I think the frustrating thing is that we're like, we're this close. All we need is just like maybe just a couple more transfers, and that could maybe push us over the line. I think that's what the frustrating thing is, that we were so close last season, and the feeling is like a couple more transfers could make us get past that line. But it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's get back to you and Fulham. I'm sort of interested into finding out what a typical match day is like for you. Like when you come to, we'll say like a home game. Obviously, away games are different for every single one you go to. But for you on a home game, how does your sort of daily routine tend to work for you when you're coming to a home game?
Right, so it's very different compared to before because I don't live in London anymore. So when I was like growing up and still living in London, it was just as simple as going to the game with my dad. So we would wake up, park up near Lily Road estate, and then just walk to the cottage from there. And it was the same old routine, really. And then when I moved out of London, it's kind of a very sporadic routine because sometimes I'll drive to the games. Sometimes I might take the coach down and have a few drinks or whatever. So it's a bit sporadic. So sometimes, I'll drink and stay in London and kind of live it up. Or sometimes, I'll do a sober day and be sensible.
Who do you go to games with? Who's your sort of your crowd of people who you go to the game with?
You know Youssef?
I do know Youssef. Yeah, I think it's hard not to notice him when you see him, isn't it? Yeah. So
So
okay.
here,
So you sit in the Hammersmith end, right? I think I've seen you around the Hammy end a few
yeah.
times.
So
So
my first
so
season ticket growing up, the season ticket was always in the Riverside, and then since I left London, I've only ever sat in Hammersmith. Maybe Johnny Ains like once or twice, but it's now it's I will only sit in the Hammersmith unless like it's like a game like I won't care about and maybe sit in the Riverside. I still need to sit in the Riverside in the newsstand. I've been in it, but not sat there on a match day, so I still need to do that.
yeah, I think it's one of those things that when you look at, you know, do everyone who has their preferred place to watch the game from. For me, I've sat in the Hammersmith end for probably about 15 years now. I used to sit in the Riverside before there was any seats in the Hammersmith end because my auntie was the one who sort of introduced me to Fulham mainly as when I was a kid, and her season tickets were in the Riverside. And we used to watch when Fulham was shooting towards the Hammersmith end. We would stand behind the goal at Hammersmith end, and when we were shooting towards the Putney end, we would go sit in our seats because you've got a slightly better view. Like that,
Yeah,
like so we used to have a mixture, but the Hammersmith end is for me is the only place I can watch a game from now. I think because it's so ingrained in me and that view and that being there.
I think if we're being honest, it is the only
When
part of the cottage apart from the way end that's got atmosphere. We've got to be honest.
yeah, obviously it is what it is with that, and we talk about. Let's break down some of your before we sort of go into top threes and stuff like that. Let's break down some of your sort of your favourite times at Fulham. Obviously, we're going to talk about your top threes and stuff in the next part of the show. But have there been any games to your recollection, to your mind, that have just been the absolute epitome of like why you support Fulham? Like what this is, you know, this is the reason why someone like me chooses to come and support Fulham.
Well, the moments like semi-finals before getting to Wembley for the first time in however many years that was, like European games, games where you survive, keeping afloat in a league. Them sort of games really stick out to me. Yeah, those are kind of. I'll never stop supporting the club no matter what. I don't care like if we're going into the National League. But yeah, like those sort of games are the ones that would stick out to me.
Yeah, no, I think that it's one of those. The cottage is a really strange place, right? Because we often get goaded for not having a great atmosphere, because that people like to think that the posh boys don't like to sing, and we get that stick everywhere we go, And I know that you're one of those people that big up the Waitrose Mafia as much as you can do, especially on TikTok and stuff like that. But it does. There can be times when the cottage can be absolutely rocking, and I think one of the reasons why that Europe was so great for us is because it really was the best of times when the stadium's just rocking all over the place, and it's just a shame that we can't keep that up
Yeah,
all
we're
the
definitely
time.
selective with
I
our atmosphere.
understand
We're
what
very
it
selective
is.
with atmosphere, and we kind of tend to select games that kind of matter, like rather than games that are just not don't matter. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there has to be something invested in the game for it to be kicking like that. Fulham, usually you look at the local derbies, you look at like Chelsea and Brentford. Those games are usually pretty good because people are up for it. And then you get other games where if there's something riding on the game, the atmosphere will be great. But if it's just an I don't want to say a nothing game because that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a nothing game. But if it's just a sort of a bog standard game, it does struggle a bit, which can be frustrating, especially if you're one of those people that like to sort of vocally follow the team. But the reason why I'm asking this obviously is because our away support is completely different, right? I think we do really well away from home. I think we're a really good set of fans away from home because we don't. One of the things I think about Fulham is we don't take ourselves too seriously, right? As a fan base, we have the ability to have a laugh with ourselves, and we often do. And often people think that they're making a joke at our expense, not realizing that we're probably the ones who started the joke.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm at a stage now where I
um,
laugh at it. I
and
embrace it. I don't care. I embrace it, and it kind of winds them up more that I embrace it rather than bite. So that's why I embrace it.
well, the point I'm making is I've just come back from holiday where I've just spent a couple of weeks in Yorkshire, and I was chatting to somebody while I was there. I was like, "Oh, don't you guys like take cheese balls on trains?" Like, yep. Like, is that it? Is that what you got to say? So what do you want? A cold pie and a sandwich, or like a nice selection of chicks? Like, what do you want from us? Like, you don't have to do football like it's complete. Like, you haven't got to have a dirty pie and a warm pint. You can have whatever you want. Well, I don't get
Yeah,
why people don't
I get that all
appreciate
the
it.
time. And that's literally one of the first things that people say to me when I say I'm Fulham fan. They go, "Oh, you must be posh then." It's like, do I look and sound posh here? Do I look like I'm eating off a cheese ball and sipping champagne?
Yeah, it bugs me, but I think that it only bugs me because I get bored of having to retort to it in the way that I have to. Because I think it's one of those things that if you can laugh at yourself and laugh at the fact that people do it, then it's all right. It's just one of those
Yeah,
things. Matt, we're gonna move over to your top threes because I think this is the moment where we get to really know you as a Fulham fan
yeah,
and work out what sort of gets you ticking. So our top threes are quite simple. They're completely down to you. They're personal to you. So there's no right or wrong answer. There's no question about it. What we like to do is we'll go through each category one by one, onto top threes, and then we'll discuss sort of the answers that you give and why maybe they're so important to you. So the first category is top three football moments that happen. So these tend to be moments that are like during the game. So things that have happened at games that have just been like really really great for you. So have you got a top three for
yeah.
your
So,
for the moments?
bear in mind that the moments are obviously from like 2007 onwards, yeah, or like 2007, whatever it is, onwards. Like they're going to be fairly young moments. Do you know what I mean? That like I can't be giving you FA Cup from back in like 1970 or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, like
Yeah, of course, of
I'm
course.
not going to rank the moments. By the way, I'm just going to give you like the three that are there without any ranking. Adoy is up there. That's probably like the most passionately I've ever celebrated. I think that when that Adoy goal went in semi-final against Derby County, because like that because one of the things Fulham I wanted to say was I've been to Wembley to see my team play at Wembley, and when that goal went in, I was like, I know I'm going to Wembley. I know I'm going to finally be able to see us play at Wembley and my team play at Wembley. So that goal's definitely right up there. Another one, like even though I wasn't there for the Hamburg game, Gera's goal as well. That took us to the final. That one has to be up there. And another one is probably Wilson's goal. Again, I wasn't there for Harry Wilson's goal, the second one that went in, because I'd literally just finished work. But yeah, those are three moments. Unfortunately, two I wasn't a part of, but those are three moments that I really loved. I really loved the club. Yeah.
Let's talk about that Dennis Adoy moment in particular because I think it's one of those ones that it doesn't come up all the time when we do the show. But I think you're right in the sense. I think I had a very similar feeling. It was just like there was obviously the relief because we brought the game back, but I think there was just something in my mind that told me that I mean my whole life, my auntie who took me to football, she told me one day you'll get to see Fulham play at Wembley, and it'll be the greatest day of your life. If we win or lose, it'll be the greatest day of your life seeing Fulham play at Wembley, and the joy of realizing that actually it's going to happen was just mental. Like I can't really explain it because I think everyone around the ground felt it. There was just this open feeling of relief and joy of Fulham playing at Wembley. It is just as great as it was. Do you remember when the goal went in? Obviously, I guess were you in the Hammersmith end when it went in?
Yeah. I remember that. So I was
Yeah,
biting the hell out of my nails from second half onwards. And I remember I started literally right at the top of the Amy end. And like, I don't know how I ended up, but by the time that goal went in, yeah, without realising subconsciously, I was taking a step forwards, getting more into the game, yeah. And by the time the goal went in, I was like over halfway down it. And then I'm like celebrating. I'm like, oh shit, I'm not even up at the top. I was out there. I remember that proper. I was, yeah, one of my favourite moments ever.
yeah. No, I'm not going to argue with it. I think it's a great moment. Obviously, the other two are really poignant moments in sort of Fulham's history as well. So I can understand you picking them, especially the moment the Harry Wilson, both the goals against Brentford last year, are probably the closest I've ever come to feeling the same way I felt about that Dennis Adoy goal. The first one obviously is great because we don't want to lose to Brentford. There's one thing we don't want is to lose to Brentford, but the winner was just immense because it just felt like one of those games where we were completely on top the whole 90 minutes, and it felt like we weren't going to score. Those games we were completely on top. We just felt like we're just not going to score today. to get the two that we did, and when it was mental. The next category is your top 3 favorite Fulham goals. Now again, these are completely personal to you. Are there 3? I'm guessing Dennis Lloyd, isn't there? But what are your top 3 sort of favorite Fulham goals?
I wasn't sure whether to pick like the best goal because of quality or the one that I enjoyed the most. I think the 3 moments I've just given you, the 3 that I've enjoyed the most, I think. Yeah. Whereas the next ones I'm going based off of just quality of the actual goal. I think you know which one that I'm going to mention because of the quality of the goal. I think you know the first one I'm going to come up with.
Crack on, give us your top 3.
Right. Kasami has to be up there.
Go on.
And you want to know something very frustrating?
100%.
I went to that game, and I walked in as we were celebrating the goal. I was late to the game, and I walked in as we were celebrating. I was like, oh shit, we've scored. Turned around to the guy, and he goes, mate, you've just like missed the best Fulham goal I've ever seen. I was like, oh, nah, gutted. And then when I went home and seen the goal, I was like, oh my god, I literally missed it by seconds, like seconds. And that's one of my most annoying moments in football is missing that goal by seconds. Second one of quality, probably I'm going to have to go for. Do you remember the Ruiz chip against Everton?
100%, yes. Great chip, great goal,
Yeah, that chip.
The little lobby one.
Yeah. I was sat on the riverside in the perfect spot to watch it as well. I watched it perfectly go in where I sat on riverside. And then last one I'm going to go with, fairly recently, and I'm gutted I missed it, was the Wilson flick. I like that one a lot. A lot of people say, "Oh, he didn't mean it." I'm sort of like, well, where do you think he was aiming?
Yeah, my response to he didn't mean it was, I don't care. Like, it went in. That's all that matters. Like, you think half of these tricks that go in, people mean them. Like, there's some intent there. You just have to have some luck that it goes where you want it to go. We'll break down that Kasami goal. For me, that Kasami goal is the best Premier League goal ever scored. And if it was scored by a Man United player or a Chelsea player or an Arsenal player, it would be in every single conversation ever had about it being the best goal ever. But because it was scored by a Fulham player, it just sort of gets ignored. And I think one of the funny things was it didn't even win goal of the month that month. You know, like I think an Arsenal goal where they scored, they passed the ball 15 times and tapped in. Yeah, there you go. It didn't even win goal in a month, and it should have been goal of the season, but it's the easiest choice anyone's ever had. You know, for me, it's special because I live in Croydon, and I was actually at that game with someone I worked with who they're not a Fulham fan or a Palace fan, but they came to the game with me, and even they were just like, that could be the best goal I've ever seen live. Yeah, it was just mental. It is good, and that Ruiz, that Brian Ruiz. Such an underrated Fulham player. I think like so many people just do not realise how good he actually was.
I think it's just that like the only time he ever struggled was with the pace of the game because he wasn't fast, and I think he suited like a slower pace game because he was all about like technique rather than like athleticism, really, wasn't
he? Yeah, but they're a great set of 3 choices. Now my favourite one. This is my favourite set of top 3s because. It's nonsense and people love it and some people hate it, but it's your top 3 favorite Fulham kits. Now, obviously, these could be ones that you particularly worn or own, or they could just be because you really like the style of them, or whatever it is. But what are your top 3 favorite Fulham kits?
Can I just say the home kit this season, is my favorite ever Fulham kit. The one this season, like I think it's the best kit in the league. Yeah, people were complaining about, it's like white shorts, it should be, but no. The full white for me makes it the best kit in the league, and it's the best kit we've ever had, in my opinion. I love it. I love this. So that's like my number one. Second one is the pinstripe. Is it 12-13? Was it 12-13? That pinstripe kit. I love that one.
I think it's 12-13.
Yeah, I love that pinstripe. I'm sure it's 12-13. And then the one that got the kit we played in to get to the Europa League final. I think that's a classic. So those would be my top 3.
Yeah, I think that fits a great. This season's home kit. I'm glad you've actually picked this season's home kit because I think I'm one of those people. I'm a traditionalist. I like Fulham playing in black shorts, right? But I don't mind it when every now and then we have a kit that's all white. I don't mind it. Usually because there's usually still an option where they'll play in black shorts if they need to. But I agree with you that the all white is so clean. And the Fulham have done a really good thing this year where they've tried to make the pattern of the shirt completely non-existent. So you can't see it unless you're properly up close to the
Yeah,
shirt.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
a great touch. The cottage railings being there on the shirt as part of the texture of the shirt is fantastic. Like, it's one of my favorite shirts we've ever had. And I don't ever buy home shirts. I don't buy football shirts really, but I'm definitely buying this year's. In fact, I'm probably going to be suckered into buying all three this year because I love all three of them. But like it is what it is. That pinstripe shirt. Um, it's I don't know what it is about that one. It's just really classy. I don't know what I like about it so much. I think it might just because the pinstripe is different, and it's just that we didn't really do that sort of thing
Have
on
we ever
home
had
shirts
what
before.
other kits have we had that's similar to that sort of pinstripe pattern? Because I can't think of one.
No, I think we've had a few years where we've had like some like minor detailing in, but like I think that's the only one that sort of that goes with it for me. I can't really think of anything that changes it. And then obviously the shirt to get to Hamburg, 100%, that's got to be in there. Your final top three, mate, is your top three favorite Fulham moments. Now these are moments that are not match related, so they're not moments that happen during the game, and they're completely personal to you. But what are your top three favorite Fulham moments that sort of typifies being a fan to you?
I'm going to go back to that semi-final against Derby County and the pitch invasion. I think I was probably in the top, like in like the first 10 people on the pitch. Like the way my mind was set, yeah, I was like, I don't care like if it's only going to be me tonight. I'm running on that pitch if we get through. I don't care if it's just me. I'm prepared to take whatever consequences happen. That's how my mind was wired up that night. I was going to get on that pitch whether we like if we won. And yeah, that's definitely right up there, getting on the pitch. Second one, I'm gonna have to put, which was actually this season. I pulled out the I made a flag for Tom Kearney, and I pulled it out at Leicester away, and he came over and gave me his top, and I was like, wow, I got my captain's top. That's up there as well. And like yeah, like the fact like how we just pointed out, you come on, come up, come in. I was like, oh, yeah, wicked. So yeah, that's up there as well. Another one is I don't know. The last one's kind of between the final whistle at Wembley, but also when we done Brentford at Wembley as well. So as in the Aston Villa game, which I was there for, and then Brentford one, which obviously none of us were for. The Brentford one for me is like a lifetime bragging right. You know what I mean? And I don't think we play on that enough as a bragging right. That was so sweet winning that one. But the fact that none of us were there kind of probably puts it second best to the final whistle at Wembley against Villa.
They're three great moments. Obviously, the Tom Kenny flag. Obviously, anyone who's been to any game that they've seen you at, they'll see the flag. It was there. I know you had it up. You actually put it up in front of me for his what could have potentially been his last game of the season at Hammersmith End last year at the top of H4. And to get him to recognise that gave you a shot. That's really cool. I think that's not many people will get that sort of luck. So that shirt should be definitely be cherished. I think because it's a great, especially from potentially what could have been some of his last moments of him playing, which is luckily we're going to get one more year of him, which is fantastic because we all love TC. The pitch invasion at Derby, I don't. I also sit right at the back of the Hammersmith net, right? So I didn't actually invade the pitch that night. But the reason why I didn't invade the pitch is I actually had a broken foot, and I was like trying to climb over the barriers to get in would just be mental. Would just be mental. I do remember just sat back at the back of the Hammersmith end, just watching it, and just the complete joyousness of it, like the joy that was. You can tell. I was gutted I couldn't be down there and on the pitch with everybody else, but it was great to watch everyone. You could just see the absolute elation around, and
I wasn't in control of my
weirdly,
body by the time I got on the pitch. I was not in control at all. I kind of like don't even remember like where I ran, what I did. I can't remember. It's almost like I blanked out. I was just like completely just like in a trance, and then next thing Like, I remember I'm like in the middle of everyone. It's like, whoa, we're here, like.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's one of those things where it's just like one that I think a couple of people jumped over. Obviously, you're probably one of them, and then it sort of enticed a couple of other people to come over. And then everyone was like, "Wait a minute, they're all on the pitch. I'm going on too." And then it was just full. And I think one of the things that's great was that, unlike other clubs that do sort of pitch invasions, we were just elated with the situation. Often you get those moments in football matches where people run on the pitch, and how many times you see it where like the team that's lost, their players have been pushed over, or like we couldn't give that. I couldn't care that. I don't think anyone cared for any of the Derby players that were on the pitch. They got no attention. They all just walked off with their head between their tails, and it was just like
I
it
got
was
to be honest.
complete.
I do think one of the spots I run to was the Derby County fans, and I was a bit like, I think I did that at one point.
There's history between Fulham and Derby and pitch invasions, and it cost him, and it cost us. So it is just the final moments of Wembley. This is an interesting one because this is we'll talk about the Villa game more than the Brentford game, because obviously the Brentford game, great for the eternal bragging rights of winning a Wembley in the playoff final, but none of us were there. So we'll talk about the Villa one, because this is the one where there tends to be a lot more emotion involved for everyone that was involved in there. Do you remember when the full-time whistle went, what your first sort of your first emotion was? Was it like relief? Was it pride? Like, what was it?
Just relief that we were back in the Premier League, because, like, in my head, I think I kind of thought if we didn't get through that game, like, and we could have been like just stuck in the league for another few years. Like, it was the joy of just like finally we're out of this league. Like, we thought we were going to be out like sooner. Yeah, that's kind of, I guess, how my mind was, just why it was more relief than anything else. Yeah.
So for me, I was crying. I spent like 20 minutes crying after the full time whistle. I think anyone who knows the story knows that my auntie Frida, who's the reason why I'm a Fulham fan, she's actually part of the reason why I do this. Is because she used to love talking Fulham with everyone, and I mean everyone. Everywhere we went, she talked football and she talked Fulham, and that sort of rubbed off on me a bit, and which is why I do this. And we'd lost her just a little bit before the final had gone. And if you remember, I was saying that she used to tell us, one day you'll get to see your Fulham player when it'll be the greatest day of your life.
Yeah.
And my God, it was. I've had kids. I'm married and I have kids.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of special emotions attached to that.
Oh, I know they're not watching and they don't care. So I'm going to say that's the greatest day of my life. Like, it's one of those things. Like, it's just genuinely, it's just watching Fulham win at Wembley, watching the TC scoring. I don't know about you, but how long was that second half at Wembley?
Oh yeah.
Like, how long did it last?
I didn't have nails by the end of it, mate.
Like, I went into that. I know we had the sun on us the whole game, but I've never been more tired and spent after a game of football in my life.
I was literally just about to say that. I remember
going out for
I was so tired.
Yeah, everyone was like, "We're going to go out and celebrate." No, I think I might have to go and go to bed. Like, I'm knackered. Like, just emotionally spent. Like, it was so bad. But yeah, that is that. Obviously, that's your top three. So there's one last thing for us to do, Matty, which is obviously we do a thing on FUL-ON and on FFC&ME where we have our Cult Hero Hall of Fame. And we'd like to get everyone on to nominate somebody to be part of the Cult Hero Hall of Fame. Who would you like to introduce to the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm going to say this person because I don't think anyone's going to nominate this guy. Do you remember the old announcer that we used to have?
David Hamilton. David Hamilton.
That's it. Yeah. He was lovely. Yeah. You know what? I think everyone's going to end up going for players, managers. I think he was a right gentleman. So I'm going to stick him there.
Well, Diddy's actually done an episode of FFC&ME himself, and if you haven't had a chance to watch it, anyone hasn't, I suggest you go watch it, because he is one of the nicest people I've ever spoken to about Fulham. Considering the access that guy had for as long as he did, and all the jobs he did for Fulham, he is an absolute legend. He's an absolute Fulham hero, and I think that Ivan Berry, who obviously does it now, does a great job of doing match day presenting, because he has to do an awful lot of trying to stay level-headed during games, but Diddy was he's the voice of Fulham for me, still is and always will be.
Yeah, I really liked
hearing
him.
his voice over Tano
few
used to be the thing that
when I had the Riverside season ticket, there was quite a few times like around half time where I'd have conversations with him, and he was he's one of the nicest guys ever. He was really, really nice. So I'm gonna stick him there.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. Matty, thank you very much for joining us on FFC&ME. For anyone who doesn't, I fully suggest you go, if you're on TikTok, go and give Matty a follow. He's always on there chatting football and Fulham with everyone. I've often catch some of his conversations, and I've not always taken part, but often just have them when I'm listening because they are quite fun to listen to. And I fully suggest if you don't, that you should go give him a follow, because he is one of the very few Fulham sort of content creators out there that are decent at what they do. So, Matty, thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
I really appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me, mate.